Did you expect to still be tired and fatigued weeks, months, years after you finished cancer treatment? I certainly didn't, and I don't want to live that way. And if you don't either, we're going to talk this episode about how cancer changed your metabolism and what you can do right now to take back control and power and feel like yourself again. Let's go.
I think the biggest one that surprised me um, was the exhaustion. Definitely caught me off guard in terms of how severe the exhaustion was, because that's just not living. I think the number one thing by far that I see women make a mistake with is nutrition. And I'm going to say that. And a lot of listeners are going to be like, oh, my nutrition's good. I eat blah, blah, blah. I eat whole foods. I eat organic. I eat mostly clean. Like all of these things that are typically very healthy, but healthy during and after chemo has got to look a lot different than healthy for just the regular person. This isn't
Hey,
just like healthy eating. This is war and this is strategy. So lots of women will say, when you're sick, and I'm guilty of this too, when you're sick, your mama, she gave you crackers and toast, right? Ginger ale, right? These are the things you have when you're sick. And so as adults, we think, okay, I just want to eat like a gentle carb, some toast, some crackers. That's fine. That is just not what your body needs to get rid of this exhaustion. So we have to be a lot more strategic in terms of knowing the science of things. So it's less about the specific foods you eat, it's more about macro and
mhm.
micronutrient targets and what we're going to achieve in terms of the split of your diet. So how much of your food goes to protein, how much of it goes to carbohydrates, how much of it goes to fat. And then we look at the micronutrients to make sure that we're achieving the right micronutrient levels to really fine tune that energy and get it back.
Wow. Is this what led to your passion and your direction of creating a inhospitable environment for the cancer through how you ate?
Well, so number one was nausea. That was my biggest concern, I would say. And absolutely, like I have tremendous knowledge of pharmacology and drugs. And so, certainly with nausea, I relied heavily on that knowledge base. I always say to clients, even now, if you're nauseated, that should not be happening to you. Now, of course, people are still nauseated, even though we've got great anti-nauseant medications. So maybe they're not managed as appropriately, or maybe they have a more refractory nausea. But still, like there are a tremendous number of anti-nauseant medications. There's no reason for you to be nauseated. Maybe it takes us a few cycles to figure it out. That's fine. But don't be like, well, I'm just going to throw up or I'm just going to be sick every cycle. This is not something that happens. It should be happening anymore. Like decades ago, we didn't have the anti-nausea medications we have now. So yeah, people were sitting in chemo chairs, literally barfing into buckets. That is not the case. That's something like you back to Hollywood just has been sensationalized by Hollywood, but it certainly doesn't need to be that way. So always like
Exactly.
empower my clients, like if you're nauseated, say I'm nauseated, let's try again. Let's try again. Let's try again.
Right.
Nausea is complex, right? Because there's a lot of different reasons why someone could be nauseous. Like it could be electrolyte imbalances, it can be anxiety. I just spoke with a woman yesterday, it was the day before her chemo, and she was very nauseated. Well, guess what?
Sure.
This is not because of your chemo, not in the sense of a pharmacological like neurotransmitter. This is because you're anxious, which is very valid and very real, but that needs a different type of treatment than
Right.
using like an anti-nauseant, like Amend or ondansetron or Zofran. It needs a different type of treatment.
That makes a lot of sense to
Mhm.
understand the root cause.
Yeah, right.
And look, I think that for a lot of us, understanding that there are foods that you may not tolerate as well, that you might want to shift. So we've talked about nausea. Were there any other side effects that you were concerned about that you took action?
I have spent a lot of time and effort solving for other women and really finding the best evidence that we can to prevent treatment induced exhaustion or even exhaustion that lingers post treatment, because that's just not living. like you get so much of the light taken out of you if you have that severe exhaustion. And so that's been just on the back end of things amazing to help see so many women just get the light turned back on inside them.
Wow, that's awesome. So I have to ask then, what do you do? How do you help people? What can people do to deal with the fatigue and the exhaustion,
Well,
right?
yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we see so much just in mainstream media about menopausal and the impacts protein makes in menopausal women. So absolutely, like there is very little downside to this aside from it taking effort.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about the story and what was it like to suddenly find yourself on the other side of the medical relationship you'd been in for so long?
I know a lot of people looked at me kind of like dead woman walking, right? Like, oh, this might be the last time I see you. So it's
Don't you hate that?
brutal. It's brutal. It's
Like, I'm not dying right now. Like, I'm not dying. Could we not go there?
what a
Well,
waste, right?
totally.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. It's definitely a curveball to be thrown at you when you're working every day. Like cancer was my norm, right? Like everyone around me had cancer. Every day you're working with, 20, 30 clients, patients that have cancer. And so for me, I started getting this symptom of heartburn, like very intense heartburn. It didn't matter what I ate, didn't matter what time of day. Like, gosh, I had terrible heartburn. So I went to my regular doc and said, like, look, I must have an ulcer or something simple, right? Because I was young, there's no way that could be anything complex. And so to her credit, she did quite a bit of blood work, and then she's like, look, nothing's coming back normal. So let's just send you for an ultrasound of your abdomen. Lots of things grow on the ovaries that are totally not cancer, like benign. And let's just see what's going on and see if there's something that's pushing up on your stomach to cause heartburn. And that's really where it was discovered I had ovarian cancer.
Well, and yours, it was large enough that it was causing a symptom. I mean, that's unusual with ovarian cancer.
Well, you
And
know
then,
what? I would say, like, the more I speak about that openly, the less unusual I'd have to say.
interesting.
If there's any pressure in my abdomen at all, I'm going to start to have symptoms of like this heartburn. And so the more
Okay.
I speak about it, the more I hear that that's a symptom that other people are experiencing too.
And so, if women are experiencing that kind of nothing's working to make the heartburn go away, it's not food, there's no medication, it just keeps happening. It sounds like you're saying, push for that ultrasound. Go take a look here.
Ultrasounds are easy to do and
Mm-hmm.
they're inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't subject you to radiation. I mean, I just don't see why you would get a ton of pushback. If you looked for other reasons for heartburn and you weren't getting answers, if you asked for an ultrasound of your ovaries, I just can't see that being a tremendous amount of pushback from your primary. We think of ovarian cancer, we're thinking painful sex, bloating, feeling full, like even though you haven't had a huge meal, maybe changes in your bowel movements, or perhaps changes in your period. Nothing, none of that.
Mm-hmm. You just had constant heartburn.
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing people think with ovarian cancer, and part of the reason I did this podcast, Kicking Cancer's Ass,
Yeah.
is, and I'm guilty of this, ovarian cancer means you die. And,
Ah,
the problem is, and it's this way in breast cancer too, but it's worse with ovarian, is every story you read, see on TV, movies, what have you, it's cancer, breast, ovarian, whatever,
mhm,
and the character's going to die.
mhm. Amen.
To
But
make their
there is a
movies.
lot of other ways characters can die, please.
Yeah, you think? And we could also have characters live. You discover the football invader, and all of your colleagues have now you've become the patient, not the
Yeah,
colleague.
yeah.
What was that switch like for
Hmm.
you?
What an interesting way to ask that question. I don't know if anyone's posed it to me quite like that before. But like my colleagues uh knew me well, of course. I don't know if they ever stopped treating me like a colleague though.
Oh, good.
Yeah, like they always treated me with just like this level of professionalism, like this is what's going to happen now. And if we can make this work, let's see. Like they always treated me very respectfully. So the shift for me wasn't necessarily the shift I made with my colleagues. Like they were so wonderful. The shift, the bumpy part for me was that I knew so much going into treatment. I had witnessed a lot of people get the exact same treatment as me. I knew what was going to happen. And that is scary, because you know the bad things that could potentially come. And that's I think the scariest part when I was starting.
So we've talked about the am I going to die fear.
Probably the worst feeling that you can
Right.
have. Like that's so morbid. For someone that's newly diagnosed, I mean, that's all you think, right? That's what you feel
Of
is like, I'm
course.
dying. Wouldn't that be a shame if I had lived the next, well, it's been 8.5 years since I was diagnosed. What a shame it would be to live 8.5 years thinking I was going to die.
Again, you had the problem of you'd seen, you knew side effects, efficacy, what have you. What were the
Mhm.
things you were most concerned about? And again, I think knowledge is power. So knowing what was possible, what did you do to mitigate the downsides as much as you possibly could?
I got my first cycle of chemo. So I had made a decision after cycle one that I should live stream my chemo to answer people's questions because I knew all about
Wow.
it. I was a researcher, I knew all about these drugs, and now I was getting them myself. Like I was the person to answer people's questions. And if I could make this more accessible to people so they could see me getting chemo, then it's less scary. It's not like shrouded in mystery then. You can like pull back the curtain and see exactly what it looks like to get chemo. Then all of a sudden it's not that scary when you have to or when someone you love has to do it. So that's how I really started all this with this idea of knowledge is power. And I live streamed on Facebook, which was quite novel circa 2016, right? And I answered people's questions while I did that. That to me was is the most powerful way to empower someone who's just diagnosed when they can like see the steps in front of them and then they literally it's like footprints in the snow. They literally just have to put their feet in your footprint and then you just keep going forward that way.
Fascinating. I think that's so cool. Did you proactively do things to stay ahead of nausea or to protect your hair or prevent neuropathy? Or were none of those characteristics of the protocol? Because I think people don't understand that cancer's many diseases, even breast cancer or ovarian cancer,
Mhm.
have many
Mhm.
flavors.
It's like 1,000 diseases under one umbrella, right? So that's why, we often see cancer survivors get swallowed up in kind of this cancer influencer idea on social media where, so and so was diagnosed and he got, cured his cancer. And I'll say, like, I mean, first of all, he's a man. I mean, I men and women's bodies are different. And then he had colon cancer. You have breast. And then what type of like? There's no way we can do just be like cancer. Cancer. Cancer is like just cells behaving poorly. It's like
And
cells.
the immune system not taking them out.
Well, sure. And like, I mean, really, like the definition of cancer is just this uninhibited growth of cells and then eventually metastases, meaning they invade into surrounding tissues. Normal cells don't do that. So that's all it is. Now, we have to go a lot more specific if we're going to treat and cure or get into remission. So we have to be a little bit more targeted than that in terms of cancer.
But you don't often get nauseous in the infusion center.
No, no.
It's that night or the next day
Yeah.
or what have
Because
you.
they're going
And
to give you pre-meds like in the infusion center. They're just going to push them through the IV. So you're probably not going to be nauseated there.
I remember one of the emails I got from people when I was going through is, oh, you should be eating a vegetarian diet. people who eat a vegetarian diet don't get cancer. I was like, well, that isn't entirely true. And knowing my body, that's not a direction I'm going to go, but I will work with a nutritionist on what makes sense for my body with my treatment and my lifestyle. But and if vegetarianism is good for you and that gives your body the macros it needs, go with God.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough because people have a lot of ideas about how
Yeah.
to eat post-cancer, and a lot of them are incorrect. Um, I mean, it's pretty clear at this point, it's pretty clear which diets don't work for cancer and which do. We've got three very large multinational guidelines, three different bodies that more or less agree on what you should eat and what you should avoid. And even beyond these huge multinational groups, and there's three of them, so it's not just one, we still see people that just disregard what they have to say. So it's tough, like to be like, oh, you should eat keto or you should eat vegetarian. It's like, no, I mean, the literature is pretty clear on this. When you go take your car into the mechanic, right? And the mechanic's like, the brake pads are done. You need to replace them. And you're like, I'm going to see if I'm going to put coconut oil on them and see if they'll fix instead. Like, come on. Like,
Right.
for me with my mechanic, I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're ripping you off. Sure. So maybe you want a second opinion, or maybe like, okay, I get it. I think when we start creating those parallels in the health space, you start to think, oh, this doesn't make a ton of sense.
I'm dying to know. You said there's these three large studies and everybody is a little different, but what are the parameters of what you should be thinking about food wise if
So
you're going to fight cancer?
let's just tag off of you mentioned vegetarian diet. So someone told you eat
Hmm.
vegetarian. So none of these three guidelines, so they're more than studies, they're actually working groups of experts and professionals that have reviewed the best literature and created guidelines for us. Okay. And so none of these three guidelines say to become a vegetarian. None
Okay.
of them. They do say to eat plant forward. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
difference. There's a big difference between eating plant forward and eating vegetarian. Eating plant forward means the presence of food. Vegetarian presence of plants, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Vegetarian means the absence of meat,
Got
right?
it.
One is restriction, one is strategy. I don't, in the cancer space, you don't need to go the restriction route. There are way too many people out there that are going to scare the pants off of you in terms of restriction, like dairy, meat, sugar, like God, the list would go on and on. You need to go the strategy route. Because chances are, if you're listening to a podcast that's talking about cancer, you care a lot. Like, you give a shit about your health, right? You're not the person that's going to the McDonald's drive-through every day eating Big Macs and wondering how you ended up in this position, right? Like, you care. So you probably already restricted enough, you know? So now let's focus on the strategy. So the guidelines really say we need to eat more plants. I'm guilty of that too. Absolutely. Could I eat more plants? Absolutely, I can eat more plants. But it doesn't mean eliminating chicken and fish. That's not the strategy. It's to include more.
Right. And that's basically good eating for life, right? Eat as much fiber as you can. The plants, the rainbow, eat the rainbow, right? All the different colors.
Well,
And
yeah, I think eat the rainbow is good advice. I think for high achieving women who get cancer, they need more than that.
why don't you explain what it is you do now? Because you mentioned you are no longer practicing as a PhD in pharmacy. Where did you go post cancer with all of the things you learned about how to make your body better equipped to fight, win, and then thrive?
So that's what I've been doing for 16 years. So that's my entire career has been built on helping women stay cancer free. So that I just happened to be diagnosed in the middle of that.
Okay.
So my career as a researcher has really stemmed around how can we help women stay on the medications that they need to take to help them give them the best shot at staying cancer free, and in a space where there is not help with that. There's not help with side effects. If you have poor or terrible quality of life on a medication, oncologists typically say like, yeah, that's the way it is, just hang in there, or they try to scare you a little bit, maybe even. There's just not good solutions. So my focus has always been to help women eliminate side effects and stay cancer free. And there's a lot of power there that you can tap into. There's a lot of things in cancer you don't have control over. I don't think anyone's trying to hide that. There's a lot outside of our control. There is a ton within your control. And I'm the type of person who wants to focus on what I can control and leave the rest to what it might be, but know at the end of the day that I've done everything in my power to put myself in a good position. And so that is exactly what I help women do now. So we do that through nutrition strategies, through movement or exercise, through targeted supplements, through the low tox living, and then of course through mindset.
Perfect. Now, when you say remain cancer free, is your practice mostly people that have been diagnosed and are trying to avoid recurrence? Or is it also people who are very high risk and want to lower the odds?
All of it. We work with women who have been diagnosed. So really the qualifications to work with me is you identify as a woman and you've been diagnosed with cancer. We do work
Okay.
with, and that would include someone diagnosed with a genetic, like a genetic carrier as well.
Now, one of the things we haven't talked about in this, you talked about the fatigue, but your oncologist also told you to basically suck it up when it came to the weight gain. And, you know, how did you respond to that? And what gave you the, I don't know, the motivation to say, yeah, no, I'm not going to just accept that.
No, I would say I was really fortunate. My oncologist was always very forthcoming in what he did know and what he didn't know. So I remember one time I had stitches in my arm from my port surgery, and he's a surgeon, and I wanted him to take the stitches out, and he was like, that's not really something that I do. He was just very confident in what he did know and what he didn't know. I really respect that from people. Like if you don't know something, don't act like you know it. And I don't think he ever alluded to the fact that he knew how to help me with weight gain or hot flashes or any of that. He was just like, this is not my area of expertise, right? Um, and to his credit, I really appreciated that. But if you gain weight for whatever reason, right? If you're at an unhealthy body weight for whatever reason, and if it's totally could not be your fault, right? Could be a product of the treatment and the hormonal suppression that you have gone through. Still, that's going to increase your risk of cancer recurrence. That's going to increase your risk of progression. That's hard news, especially when you're put on steroids and there's emotional eating and your hormones are suppressed and tamoxifen and anastrozole and surgery restrictions. That's hard news to take. But I mean, it's the hand you're dealt. And at the end of the day, yeah, you might not like the way you look. I know I certainly didn't, but the purpose behind me dropping that weight was so much deeper than what I saw in the mirror. This was health, this was life and death, especially in ovarian cancer. So that motivation's a lot deeper and a lot stronger for weight loss. So that's what really pushed me forward is knowing like this is so clear in the data that if we're carrying around extra weight, that we're going to have a higher risk of recurrence. So that's what really pushed me forward in solving that issue.
Yeah, that is one of them that I hear a lot from people. And you add on the early menopause, for a lot of us, our treatment resulted in menopause before its time. And I think most women say, even in menopause, weight gain is a real challenge and a real health concern.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'd like to explore that, what you're calling true freedom from cancer, where people are going months. How do you help that mindset shift from what if it comes back to moving forward and living their life?
Right. because you can be cancer free, but not free from cancer. Those are two different things. You could have no evidence of disease and still very much be held back by the anxiety and the fear and the what ifs. Or you could still have cancer in your body and you could still very much have a free mindset from cancer where you like are living your life exactly as you want it. Right. So we have to acknowledge the importance of mindset in this space because if we don't, we're just missing out on a huge chunk of recovery and remission without really taking yourself. Because when you get diagnosed, you have to take on this identity of like the cancer patient because there's blood draws and there's tests and there's scans and there's appointments, and you just kind of get pulled into this machine. And to really survive it, you take on this identity. But then once you get to the end of your active treatment, if we don't break up with that identity, we're going to stay locked in that space of like, I'm the breast cancer patient, I'm the ovarian cancer patient, I'm sick, I'm like, whatever it is, you just stay locked in that. And I always say to women that I work with, like, look, I want to get to know you. I don't want to know you, the breast cancer survivor. I just want to know you. Like, what do you like to do? What do you spend your time doing? What's your dream? Like, with or without cancer, okay? But that's the goal, right? And so if we don't take that time to unpack that and face that trauma, then we're just going to waste so much time on it.
They get stuck in this loop of this shouldn't have happened to me. I'm too young. I was too healthy. It's wrong. And they're stuck there. And I'd love to hear how what you say to people who are stuck in that and can't kind of break out to cancer is something that happened to me, but it's not who I am.
Like there's a great book that I'm sure many people have heard of, but it's called Mindset and it's by Carol Dweck. And she speaks to a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset and all of her research around that. Now, this idea of I can't move on because it makes it okay. Mm, I don't know. I would have to really challenge someone on that idea, right? Because we move on from all kinds of things that are not okay. That's Frick, that's life, right? That is life. It's just a series of things that maybe shouldn't have happened, but did. And I always think about it this way, like my mindset is that life is good. Life is good. Life was good before cancer. Life was good after cancer. Life was good before I had my kids and I didn't have to take care of anyone. And life was great after I had my kids and I have to take care of them all the time, right? Life was good before marriage and after marriage, and before 40 and after 40. Life is good. So that's where I'm always going with my mindset. I saw something the other day that I just loved, and it was like every day I wake up and I look for reasons why this could possibly be the best day of my life. Now, and damn, I love that because I'm like, yeah, like you have like endless amounts of days ahead of you. Every day could be the best day of your life. And I'm not the type of person that's like toxic positivity. I'm not like a rah cheerleader. I'm like sarcastic and cynical sometimes. But here's the thing, like no one is paying the price of this except for you. Like if you're like, I can't
That's
let
right.
go of it, or I can't forget it, or if one I hear a lot is if I move on or if I let my guard down, then I'll be so disappointed if it happens again. Well,
Right.
geez, what a waste. What a waste, right? Just like you're going to be disappointed if it happens again, whether it happens or not, you know? So you
Right.
might as well spend these days being so overjoyed with life and just focusing on what you have right here. I really like the concept of being delusional in a good way. I say I'm delusional all the time. I'm delusional until it becomes the truth. And so if I just keep being delusional about what's possible for me, what's possible in my life in all realms, then what? I fall short of that delusion I had. It's still really good.
Sure. You've reached for it. And I think not grasping onto it, but saying, it happened.
Mm,
And what do I want to make of this day,
mm.
this glorious day that I got to wake up and have? I think, how do you make this the best day yet? It's great. And if it isn't, so what? So what?
Yeah.
You've got another one.
Yeah, it's such a complex issue that it's really why each individual needs that support, right? As to why they have that feeling of why did this happen to me or that this is not okay. There's a lot of different reasons. Like sometimes there's a misdiagnosis, right? So there's anger towards a clinician. Sometimes it's like, this isn't fair. I've done everything right. So that one, for example, I just was speaking to a woman last week that had that idea. I did everything right and I'm still here. Yeah, you did everything right. And now your body is so strong that you're going to be able to face this so much better. So
Well
if we
done.
just do that shift, I mean, now you're in a place of power. You're not, you're changing from a place of being a victim to being a place where you're in control.
There's things you don't have a say about, but
Sure.
there's a great deal you do. And owning that and seizing onto it, you become a better partner with your care team
Yeah.
and you get better outcomes.
Yes, you get, if you have a better relationship with your care team, we have literature to show you get better outcomes. And think about it this way. I hear women all the time, well, I have to take tamoxifen for 5 years. You don't have to do anything, right?
Right.
You don't even have to go to your oncologist ever again if you don't want to. You might feel because of like how you were raised and you're like a checklist person, you might feel that way. But like, let's look at the facts. Like you stop taking tamoxifen, no one's calling, like no one's going to be like, hey, are you taking it? Like, so, and that we can get into why that's right or wrong. But I mean, ultimately, you're driving the bus.
Right. And you decide what risks you can and what side effects you can live with. And those are intensely personal choices.
Absolutely.
Um, so I want to ask about exercise before we go into the lightning round.
Yeah.
You've said in your work, I think in your speaking, that exercise can reduce recurrence risk by 59%. How much time do they need to wait? And do they need to wait at all? Should they do it during treatment? I know I never stopped exercising during treatment, it was a lifeline.
So 59% risk reduction, that's not a stat that I just came up with. Everything that I say is based off of literature because I'm an evidence-based clinician. Not everyone in the cancer space is an evidence-based clinician, but every stat that I use has a research article to back it up. So in terms of exercise, we have so much literature for exercise. It has literally exploded over the last 10 years. The 59% comes from a systematic review, which is arguably some of the highest level of data. This is like taking a bunch of research studies and summarizing it all using statistical analysis and spitting out what the truth is, right?
Mhm.
It's not just one study of 200 women. No, we're looking at tens of thousands of cancer survivors, most of them breast cancer. And we see if you hit target exercise levels, you reduce your risk of recurrence by 59%. That's
Wouldn't
exercise
do that.
alone.
The most amazing thing.
4% only hit that target.
And is the target, the number I'd heard was 150 minutes a week with elevated heart rate.
So heart rate's a tricky one because it's hard to study necessarily because we need more hands-on um, data in terms of it. So heart rate is not included in a lot of the publications, but
Okay.
we could categorize it as low to moderate intensity exercise. So like you can still talk, right? Maybe you can't carry on a normal conversation, but you can still talk while you're doing this exercise, like walking,
Mhm.
like pedaling a bike, right? And 150 minutes would be the minimum. So that's
Okay.
cardio, so low intensity cardio. That's half of this equation. The other half of the equation is strength training.
Hmm.
You need to be doing 20 to 30 minutes of strength, full body strength training 2 to 3 times a week.
Hmm.
Okay. So Pilates, yoga, that's not strength training. We're talking body weight, resistance bands, dumbbells, barbells. So those two things together. So literally 150, what is 150 minutes per week work out to be? This is a 25-minute walk. Is
Right. It's a
that
30
true?
minute walk, 30-minute walk 5 times a week.
Yeah, so 21 minutes a day.
Right.
So I
And
like
by,
5 day, I like every day to create habit.
hmm
We're talking about
hmm
habit stacking here. So every day we spend 20 minutes a day scrolling your phone, doing nothing. I said, we have a rule in our house. You can scroll your phone for as long as you want, but you get on the walking pad and do it. You don't need to stop after surgery. I always say, think about if you had a surgery, think about post-op. What is like the oldest, crustiest nurse is coming into your recovery room, and what is she doing? Oh, hello, sister. It's time to go to the bathroom. Okay, up. Oh, you're tired? That's too bad. Up out of bed. Let's go.
Yep.
and if you've had babies, it's the same thing. You get that crusty nurse in there. They're pulling you out of bed, right? Because
Hmm.
like this is how you heal. The body doesn't heal by being sedentary. We're not meant to be sedentary. So, absolutely, walking fits into surgery restrictions. Okay. Surgery restrictions are strength training, lifting weights. Okay. So walking fits into that. So I agree. Like, I would never stop. And if you're wondering when I can start, the answer is today. And the
I
answer
agree.
is not 20 minutes or whatever. The answer is 5 minutes today. Walk around your house, walk around the block. Like, if you're like, there's no way I can do that, give me 90 seconds, give me 6 minutes, like whatever it is, just start and build from there. Look, before I was diagnosed, I was Team Canada
Right.
level Olympic athlete. So I was doing weightlifting. That was my sport. I was internationally ranked. Um, I
So
was
everything I just said, you know very well.
Absolutely. And so, like, I was pretty much top of my game, I would say, in March. I was diagnosed in November.
Mm,
For me, like, I was used to lifting so heavy. Um, and I couldn't do that level of lifting during my
sure.
treatment. But I still love to move. I still love the people I was around. I still love being at the gym. That was my community. So I went down to lifting a PVC pipe, to lifting an empty bar, like whatever it is. It doesn't really matter
Mhm.
about the amount of weight. It matters that you're progressing. So you're doing a little bit more than the week before.
Yeah, and you're doing what your body tells you it can do today. And, sometimes you got to listen to it. I think all the time. All right, lightning round before I let you go. I know you have a busy practice and I want to respect your time. 5 quick sentences, questions, quick answers. Number 1, the biggest myth about cancer recovery is
Oh, that there's a you have to get used to your new normal. There is no, you don't have to get used to a new normal. You can be the healthiest version of you ever now. New normal is just a lie.
love it. If you could change one thing about how oncologists prepare patients for life after treatment, what would it be?
I think you need real targeted strategies after cancer. I don't think that needs to come from an oncologist, but we need it in place.
Yeah, someone in the comprehensive cancer center. So, what's the most important conversation a woman should have with her oncologist as she's finishing treatment?
Depends on the woman. Like for me, the conversation I was having was around follow up and surveillance. I know that's really important to a lot of women. But there got to be a time where I was just like, hey, look, let's break up and never talk to each other again. So I don't know if there's a one size fits all for that one.
Describe in 3 words what true cancer recovery looks like.
Hmm. I mean, I just always come back to freedom. I think it's the freedom to do what you want with your time. So you're not bogged down by appointments. You're not bogged down by anxiety. You're not held back by your treatment. It always comes back to freedom for you to decide on what that looks like.
I love it. Freedom, empowerment, confidence. Love all of it. Okay. Last one. What's your advice for someone who wants to kick cancer's ass?
Ooh. Ooh, I think personalized support is a big one. I Personalized medicine is big, personalized lifestyle medicine is big. It needs to be customized to you above anything else.
I agree. We are all unique, and so should how we deal with our cancer and deal with our lives. So,
Amen.
Dr. Amy Morris, how can people find out more about you?
Yeah, you can find me. I'm most active on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube, Dr. Amy Morris, Cancer Recovery. You can find me there, or on Instagram, Dr. Amy Morris, or you can find me at cancerfreedomprogram.com.
Perfect. And we'll put links to all of that in the episode notes on YouTube as well as Spotify, Apple, and everywhere people get their podcasts. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your energy, your brilliance
Thanks for
with
having me.
us, with my audience. Oh, it's my pleasure. If this episode touched you, helped you, inspired you, please like it, please share, please leave a comment for me, for Dr. Amy. This is Joelle Kaufman, and this has been Kicking Cancer's Ass.